We want to give you a quick little introduction to the Roman Stoic philosopher Seneca. So for this, you're going to want your history, culture, mythology notes, that section of your notebook. And let's start off with some basics on who this guy is. So his full name is Lucius Annaeus Seneca. And he crosses over that BC AD split in human history. He was born in 4 BC in Spain, and this is Romanized territory at that time, but it was Spain. And then he died in the year 65 AD. And when we talk about philosophy, there are lots of what we say different schools of philosophy, different ways in approaching the topics of philosophy. And you have to understand that in the ancient world, philosophy really took in everything. Philosophy covered mathematics, it covered ethics, it covered art and music, it covered literature, it covered a wide variety of topics, and really it kind of takes in really everything that you would get in a modern high school. Basically, you were getting a philosophical curriculum in the modern American high school. So we say there's these different schools of thought. And you think about it. One high school may approach the teaching of Latin in a certain way. Different high school approaches it in a different way. So that's kind of what we mean by these different schools of thought. And the Stoic school has an interesting origin. It goes back to 310 BC, and this fellow named Zeno. And Zeno taught in an area, a part of a building in Athens. It was called the Poikile Stoa. And we'll go ahead and put that on the screen here for you in Greek. Since you have a little Greek background, you can take your notes in Greek as well. Poikile Stoa. And what that literally meant was the painted porch. Poikile is painted, stoa means porch. So basically you've got these buildings, right? And around the outside, you have this kind of a porch, or we call a portico, where people would walk and talk, and that's what Zeno did. He would walk and talk with his students, discussing matters of life. And because he was connected with the stoa, or that particular porch, his style of philosophy became known as Stoicism. And Stoicism really addresses some of the deep matters of life, how to live well. And then along comes, several hundred years later, this fellow named Seneca, who's Roman, and he picks up with that kind of philosophy. He thinks that way, he teaches that way. As a matter of fact, he actually was the tutor of the Roman Emperor Nero. And apparently Nero really didn't learn the lessons of his teacher, because Nero turned out to be one of the not only worst emperors, but really worst leaders in human history. And what you're going to be reading are selections from some of Seneca's writings. And he wrote his philosophy in the form of letters or epistles to his friend Lucilius. Years ago, I had some students who wanted to read some Roman philosophy. And so they did. They read some Roman philosophy, read some Seneca in English translation. And when they got done, one of my students said to me, she said, "Why, Mr. Perkins, have you not read this with us before?" She said, the stuff in Seneca, she said, is so relevant to us, to teenagers. And at that point, I thought, okay, I need to put this into the curriculum. So the reason you're reading what you're going to be reading is because of a former student who thought that the writings of the Stoic philosopher Seneca were so relevant and applicable to teenagers. And indeed, they are. The writings are solid, good material. I think you're going to get a lot out of this. And that's a little background on Seneca.